Okay, so welcome everyone. Tonight we are here for Showtime's Power Hour workshop, which we have once a month. And our presenter tonight is Connie Weiss, and she'll be talking about being booed, heckled, and Murphy's Law, what to do when stuff goes wrong during your presentation. And Connie's a longtime Toastmaster. She's been a frequent leader in District 3. I know you've served as division governor at least once. She holds a bachelor's degree and 3 MBAs. Talk about your overachiever. So her job now, she works for North Central University as a re-entry advisor. So she works with doctoral candidates, helping them make sure that they complete their programs. So tonight, Connie, please tell us about being booed, heckled, and Murphy's Law. Take it away.
Thank you, Bobby. By a show of hands, how many of you have been booed, heckled, had a technical malfunction, or told a joke that just fell flat? Okay, it looks like most of us. Tonight, I hope to provide you with some tips and strategies to help you when you are in that circumstance. I'll share my experience, but I want this to be a very interactive session. So please maybe think of a time or two that you can share with us when called upon. I was applying for a management position at the University of Phoenix, and this is when the dinosaurs roamed the earth. And I did not know that it was a trend to ask candidates to tell a joke. So I was totally unprepared when I was in front of a panel interview of young 20-somethings, and they asked me, Connie, tell us your favorite joke. Gosh, it's been so long since I heard a good joke. I don't even remember. I can't tell them a knock-knock joke. Those are the only jokes. And I certainly can't tell them my favorite joke. The countdown in my mind with the clock was going around and around. I'm like, say something, say something. Well, why wouldn't JFK be a good boxer? I looked around. Nobody answered because he couldn't take a shot to the head. Oh my. Oh. To make it worse was that I had this young man ask me who JFK was. Talk about awkward. Okay. Recover. And all through the interview, I still was talking, but in the back of my head, I knew that was it. There was no way I was going to get the position. Who would like to share an example where their humor fell flat, or they were booed, or maybe even their joke was groaned at? I'm not the only one that's probably been in that position. Somebody brave enough to, Kathy, will you unmute Kathy? Yes.
Yes. In my other club, every week we have a joke master. And I don't mind doing any project, any function in my club with the exception of joke master. Everyone tells me I have a great sense of humor. I cannot tell a joke. So I knew I was going to be joke master that week. And I was at another Toastmasters meeting, heard this really cute joke. Everybody chuckled. I thought, okay, I'm going to use that joke. So I went to my meeting. This is like the first thing you do in the meeting. So right off the top of the bat, they say, okay, Kathy, joke master, give us a good joke today. So I said my joke, silence, absolutely no reaction, no groans, no nothing. And I sat there for like, what seemed like an hour, but it's probably like 10, 20 seconds. And then I scurried back to my seat and sat down. I begged them not to make me joke master, but that was a bad morning.
Been there. Thank you for sharing. So what do you do when your joke doesn't get the reaction? Well, I would encourage you to still use humor and say, oh, this is the humor part of the show, folks. Please laugh. Or, oh, I just threw that in. Maybe I should throw it out now. Don't let it affect you, but be prepared in case it isn't received. Now, I'm going to talk about 3 P's throughout the presentation. The first one is being prepared. The second P is practice. And the third P is perseverance. And what do the 3 P's add up to? A phenomenal speech. So that was an example of A, perseverance. If your humor doesn't land, try to use humor or just go on. Preparation. Toastmasters 101. Know your audience, right? Think about who you're giving your speech to. I'm sure that telling that JFK joke to a bunch of veterans, maybe, or political people may not get the humor that I like, but always try to use humor when your jokes fall flat. Try to use local humor if you're visiting. People always like to hear when you add something about the state or the Diamondbacks, right? You get that commonality. So that's a good example of how to handle a situation when your humor falls flat. Let's talk about when you lose your thought in your presentation. Well, remember, they don't know what you're going to say, so just keep on going. But to help you remember, there's several strategies you can use. You can use a mnemonic advice, which it doesn't work for me because I never remember the right sentence. But what has worked for me is I'm a very visual person. And years ago, when I first joined Toastmasters, one of my mentors turned me on to this great tip. He said, picture a house and you're going through the door. So think of that sentence. You go into the living room. That is your main point. The bedrooms are your supporting points. And then your conclusion is when you shut the door. So I can visualize that house and where I'm at in the speech. Another technique is grab something to drink. Pretend that you're thirsty. Give your mind a few minutes because the audience thinks, oh, she just needs a drink. But maybe that 10 seconds that you took gives you enough time to recall where you were at. Finally, again, use humor and joke. Well, you didn't know you were having a quiz today. Can everybody tell me what was the last thing I said? Or what was my last key point? They'll never know that you forgot. Buy some time. And finally, have a note card handy. There's no shame in taking a quick look at your notes and moving forward. You can also, if it's called for and will fit in, you can use an activity to distract them and then go back to look at your notes. So those are a few ways to handle that situation. Now, I was a new Toastmaster and I was presenting at TLI for the first time. And I practiced and I prepared. I was ready to go. I was introduced. This was when we were using projectors. Got to the second slide that told about my session, and guess what? the light bulb blew out. I was horrified. I was ready to come unglued. Luckily, one of my friends was in there and they're like, Connie, it's okay. Just breathe. Think about what you were going to say. Just take a minute. Okay. Perseverance. Remind yourself you're a Toastmaster. Joke about it. Oh, or if the lights go out, you can say, gosh, didn't the company pay the bill? Again, use humor. And almost all these situations, humor will save you. Okay. Stall for time until you calm yourself by breathing, ask the audience to help, but move on more importantly. Don't let that stop you. Same thing. How many of us have had internet problems while on Zoom? Bad connection, the Zoom dropped. And you wanted to pretend, oh, I don't have to go in and face them. Right? Still had technical problems. We're Toastmasters. You've got to tell yourself, move on. Be prepared for the unexpected. Murphy's Law, right? What if you thought you were giving a 45-minute presentation and the boss said at work, oh, Connie, we've got to cut it short. You only have 25 minutes. Be prepared. Think about it when you're giving your presentation. Something might happen. You might have technical issues. The boss might say, okay, where can I cut it if not? Or the opposite. You're with other speakers on a panel and one of the speakers didn't show up. Where can you add to your presentation? This all goes back to preparation. Think of and ask yourself, Murphy's Law, what can happen? What do I do when I forget? What do I do when I tell a joke and it falls flat? What do I do if there's technical difficulties? Have I done my homework? Did I go into the room that I was presenting beforehand and see if I'm projecting? Can the people in the back hear me? Is it light enough or is it dark? Am I looking at the camera? Unfortunately, this past weekend, I was watching a contestant at a speech contest and she gave a wonderful speech. But guess what? We only saw this part of her body. She was not in frame at all. So think about that. Zoom is free. You can do sign up for a Zoom account for free and practice. How is your background? If I'm making gestures, is it blurry? How am I in the frame? What do you see? If I'm showing my real background, do I really want them to see my messy room or this beautiful bookcase that I have? Those things matter. Those things can distract from your presentation. And again, the 3 P's: preparation, practice, and perseverance. Has anybody had a mistake in their presentation where they say something that they didn't want to say and it just came out wrong? They mispronounced a word. They had typos in their slides. Who would like to share an example? I see people nodding. Mike, you know you want to share.
I can't think, certainly I've had a typo here and there, right? But I'm thinking about more, Connie, of the situations where, and this is more endemic to a specific situation where I'm a youth leader and I'm talking to these kids and they're not paying attention. You know, they're just spacing out. And then I go and same thing with my customers, right? You're telling something and you don't, it's the same thing almost as being booed or heckled when someone's not paying attention to you. And you don't want to call them out and say, hello, I'm talking, but it is distracting as a speaker I know it's not the same thing, but that's what I was thinking about.
Okay. Well, let's talk about that. But let me remind you, use humor. You can say that you wanted to, you notice you actually put in the typo on your presentation for the perfectionist to see if they could spot it.
Yeah,
Laugh
who's
at
paying attention?
yourself,
Yeah.
right? Okay, so you bring up a very good point. Engagement. It's hard presenting to black squares. You don't have that energy. You don't have that connection. Like Mike said, you don't want to call them out. Same thing with somebody who's heckling you and interrupting you, or a know-it-all, right? You don't want to focus on the bad behavior. So a quick tip on that is, if it's warranted, see if you can, in person, call them up and they can be your scribe. Ask them to make notes for the parking lot later on. Go into an activity because you're taking that person out of that situation where he's affecting all your audience and putting him in a group where he's only affecting a few people. Right? If you have to call them out, do it privately. Take a break and then ask to speak to them. But I go back to humor. Say something funny, say something totally off the wall to draw them in. Call them by their name and ask them a question. If two people are talking while you're presenting, and let's say for this example, it was Jared and Jimmy, I'd say, oh, I must have said something really great, Jared. Can you share with me what you were sharing with Jimmy? So that's a little more passive aggressive, where you are calling them up and they're realizing they need to stop. And either they're like, oh, I just said something wrong, or they'll make something up, or they'll stop their behavior.
I like it.
Okay, does that help?
I like it.
Okay. What if you hear a disruptive noise? Maybe you're in person and there's somebody or is making noise, or on Zoom, their dog is barking. That's where your wingman comes in. In this case, Bobby is my wing person. She would put that person or everybody else on mute for me, or make a fun of it. Like, oh, even the dog loves me. Laugh, use humor. Okay, anything in a positive way to recognize the situation, but move on. Don't let it distract you. Practice for interruptions. Be prepared. Think of all the types of interruptions possible. The radio, the phone. Set ground rules when you have your session in and you're doing your presentation. At TLI, we'd always say, okay, please make sure your phones are off. Remind people, make sure it's not your own phone. Murphy's Law. I've had people that be this presenter and their own phone goes off and they're so thrown off about it. I had one presenter, they just threw the phone and must have been out of the room. It was like, oh no, that's an expensive phone. And they apologized. We're all human. Things happen. Murphy's Law. But we can minimize it by whatever the three, please. And I want everybody, can you unmute everybody, Bobby?
She might.
I actually don't see, I only see a mute all, but that's
Yeah.
because I think
Oh.
Connie There we go. I think people are unmuting themselves.
Okay, if you can unmute yourself. And again, this is part of another way to engage is ask questions, involve people. Let's say all the 3 P's together. The first one is what? Be prepared.
Prepare.
The second one is
Practice.
practice. And the third one,
Perseverance.
perseverance. Thank you. Okay, please mute everybody. So what happens when I'm giving my presentation and I have a PowerPoint and I forget how to share, or my co-host does the PowerPoint for me and puts the PowerPoint up?
Okay.
Okay. So did you hear the one about, I said, humor, always laugh in that moment, and don't apologize, but you can make a joke that for yourself and let people laugh with you. Next slide, please. Another example of when humor falls flat.
Yeah.
Oh, did somebody just boo me? Oh my gosh.
Oh,
Groans. Oh my gosh. We're Toastmasters. This is a positive, supportive environment. But is everybody in your presentation going to be a Toastmaster? They could be visiting, or you could be presenting at a non-Toastmasters function. What do? You've practiced, you're prepared. What's your plan B? Use humor again. Oh, so you don't like that one? Well, let me tell you about this one. Don't let it throw you if they don't get your humor. I love dark humor. So when I saw the slide about Stalin, I thought that was perfect. People are not going to get my humor all the time. Some people, I saw some smiles. Don't apologize. The final P, perseverance. Remind yourself you're Toastmasters. You roll with it, you move on, you persevere, and you breathe. Okay? Are there other times or situations where you're just stumped and you don't know what to do? Can somebody think of an example that they would like to share?
I already shared.
Okay, Bobby?
I'll share one that I now know what to do, but when I was like in junior high, 9th grade, we were having a county government day, and I was running to be the county recorder or treasurer or something, and we had to get up on the stage and do a speech. So I got up there, it was my turn, and I took a breath. And then I did my whole speech talking in this really high voice because I didn't realize I should stop, let my breath out, and then keep going. It was horrible, the most horrible experience. And it's probably one of the main reasons I eventually joined Toastmasters.
Thank you for sharing. I'll share another one. There are times where I know I'm really connecting with my audience and I see them nodding their heads. I've actually told a funny joke and I see everybody laughing. And then in my head, I think, oh my God, they're really paying attention, or they're laughing at me, even though I'm really doing a good job. So I have to tell myself, Connie, you told a joke. It's funny. Let them laugh. You've built in a pause for them to laugh, because one of the worst things you can do is step on the laughter. When you're in a speech contest, such as a humor speech contest, if you don't build those moments in, you can go over time, or you rush it and you kill the effect. So pause. And those two situations, I have to tell myself, wow, I am nailing it. Great, move on. Not, oh no, what did I say? Oh my gosh, they're listening to me. So it's all about self-talk. Be confident. Remind yourself that you've prepared, you've practiced, and if anything happens, you're going to persevere. Self-talk is huge. We've all heard, fake it until you make it. It's wonderful that Toastmasters are so supportive and positive. Sometimes when I first started, I have to remind myself, they're not going to stone me. I'm not going to die. They'll still want to see me at the next meeting. I've grown so much, thankfully, because of my mentors, particularly in this club. At a time where I wanted to quit, people don't believe me when I share this story. It was probably my third or second speech. Well, let me back up. When I first joined Toastmasters, I had a bad experience interviewing. It was another interviewing situation at European. This time it was a stadium seating venue, and there was over 70 candidates. And we had to present an idea. And at the most critical point in the presentation, I either knew that you were going to love it or hate it. Well, this one girl hated it. She said so, and then she laughed. And I lost all my confidence. I could not go on. One of my girlfriends was in that interviewing for the same position. And she said, Connie, you need to go to Toastmasters. She knew my confidence was shot. So that's how I joined. Well, I was still licking my wounds, and even table topics seem like an eternity. I'm like, okay, just get through it. You can do it. Then I was in my second or third speech, and I was stumbling. I sounded like I was crying. It was emotional. And even today, sometimes I lower my voice, or my voice gets really high when I'm talking about something that's very close and emotional to me. And I panicked. I literally ran from the room and told myself, you're never going to come back. Thankfully, my mentor and a few of my good friends, including the girlfriend that got me in, said, Connie, you're going back even if I have to drag you. When people hear me today, they're like, oh no, there's no way. I said, yes, that's where I started from. Everybody starts from different positions, right? At different places. But we all have bad days. We all have to be prepared for the unexpected. We've just got to roll with it and remind ourselves of those 3 Ps. I can't emphasize it enough, and tell ourselves, we've got this. Is there another situation that we really haven't covered that somebody wants to talk about or share with us?
And ask a question you don't know how to answer.
Okay, that's a very good one. What I would do is be honest. That's a very good question. Maybe if you can, at the break, say, I'll get back to you. We'll put it on, if it's in person, we'll put it on the parking lot. Or can I come back to that? And if there's a break, look it up. Or ask people in the audience. We've got a lot of seasoned Toastmasters. Has anybody been in that situation where you've been asked a question and could not answer it? I'm surprised. Okay, Bobby.
I'll just say that one of the things that I've learned along the way is that it's recommended that you never pretend like you know the answer and just say whatever, because it's much better just to acknowledge you don't know and get back to people.
And if you say you're going to get back to them, get back to them, right? Because either that looks bad on you, but also if you're representing an organization, that looks bad as well. So that's where I was going to go. If you don't know, don't pretend. But do what I did. Ask the audience. They may know. They might be a subject matter expert. You don't know. Any other questions? Because this is your time. And I want to make sure that you go away with some tips and some strategies to help you give better presentations.
Going back to that last one, if you don't know the question, as a speaker, that's terrible because you're sitting there thinking your mind starts spinning. I can't answer it, but what you're saying, I think, is 100% right on. But it's a great opportunity to take it and flip it to a re-engagement of your audience. Those people slouched in the chair, sit up. Hey, wait a minute. They don't know the answer to this. Oh, I got to hear this. This must be a tough question. I think taking it to that next level it's a perfect opportunity to take advantage of it.
Totally. And you could even redirect it back onto the audience and say, hey, does anyone else, I don't know the answer to this. Does anyone else happen to know? Right. I mean, because people know a lot of stuff.
Very much. Very much.
Or maybe you guys can brainstorm and then they can come up with a solution depending on the question.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Trish, you came in kind of blurry.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, give it back to the group and make it a learning situation. Okay, where would we go to find the answer? Who's, get out your tools. Do you have somebody have an iPad, or a tablet? Does somebody have can they look to the internet on their phone? And you make it a learning exercise for everybody, so where you can come up with the answer then. Hopefully come up with the answer.
Thank you. That's perfect. See,
I like it.
Got a lot of smart people.
Yeah,
smart people in attendance.
It depends on the context too, because Jared might have been thinking, hey, what if I'm in an interview? You were talking about interviews, right? That you were in an interview and hey, what if I'm in an interview and I get a question I don't ask? Well, that's a particular problem, right? That's a different kind of problem than if you, maybe it's not, if you are a speaker, if you're supposed to be the expert on the subject, if you're being interviewed and you're supposed to be the expert on the subject, maybe it is the same thing. But I agree you can't lie, you can't fake it, you can't do any of those things because it'll either show through or it'll come back around on the back end somehow. And no one wants to be in that position. So I don't know the answer, but I will get back to you with an answer.
And I think if it was an interview situation, then I would probably try to focus on my strength, saying, yes, I don't know, but one of my key strengths is I know how to research.
Yes. Right? I know exactly how to find out the answer.
Exactly. Yeah.
Her name is Alexa.
I've got my own subject matter expert. Who wants a goodie? Who loves to get something, a little goodie, something for free? Well, I'm going to ask my co-host to post our handout for this presentation in the chat, and then we'll go over all the things that we've talked about. So if you were really engaged and was busy writing but couldn't get everything written down, guess what? I've got a gift for you, a handout. And as you know, we did record this session, so you can always look for us on YouTube, and we have other sessions. Also encourage some of your friends and family or people that might benefit from the session, point it to our resources. on, and you can look at some of our other fabulous presentations. But again, I really was excited to present this because I've been in all these situations and at different times in my presenting journey, and I wish I had this information a lot sooner. Now, will it prevent me from telling bad jokes? Probably not, because there's only a small percentage of the population that likes dark humor, but I can't change who I am. But can I be more aware that people, not everybody's going to like my humor? Absolutely. Is there a time and place for different types of humor? Yes. And even there's actually a couple of the Toastmaster Pathway projects, they suggest having a humor file. And at first I thought, well, that's dumb, but guess what? I have one now. So little snippets. And I went to the symphony, and this was a true story, just on Saturday. And I guess there was a man snoring in the first couple of rows. And the performer said, "Ma'am, is that your husband?" And she says, "Yes." And he said, "Can you wake him up?" And the woman checked her head. And then he says, "Oh, I thought you were going to tell me since I was putting him to sleep, it was my job to wake him up." Sir. And he was just joking. And I thought, oh, that was brilliant. I wish I could use that at some time. So talk about engagement. Boy, I don't know if I would have the guts to do that. But I thought that was brilliant, right? So think about different times when you can use different types of humor, because I truly believe that when you're down and out, just laugh. And that's what we all like to do. It makes us human. There's that commonality, and people will forgive us for any mistakes, any typos, Murphy's Law. Because who carries around a projector light bulb? I didn't even think about that. And I hear that they're very expensive. So I'm kind of glad that we don't use the projector anymore. Any other questions or comments or situations? Because this is part, and I'm getting evaluated, so I do need people to ask questions.
Who's evaluating you?
Well, if I send you an evaluation form, would you like to evaluate me?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I will put my.
Look, Kathy shows up. She's like, I've been evaluating the whole time.
Okay, Connie, I have a question.
Yes.
Showtime is an all online club. I found a unique thing that happened to me just a few minutes ago. Say you're giving your online presentation and all your lights go out. What do? Because all my lights went out a minute ago. They're back on, but I unplugged them by mistake. So here you are sitting in the dark trying to give your presentation and they can't see you. Okay, what would you do?
Well, again, as soon as you get back online, make a joke of it. I talked about saying, oh, and in my case, since it's your home, and if I was here, I'd say, gosh, I should have put that check in the mail. Or blame it on the dog. Max, don't pull the cord yet. I wasn't done. Something funny. But the worst thing you can do is make it stop you and apologize. I was at a presentation where the slides were not flipping. He was using a remote, and I guess the batteries were going. And he kept on going like this and saying, I'm sorry, oh, that's the wrong slide. And let's go back. And then, oh, I'm on slide, should be on slide 7. And he just came across very unorganized, even though it was something as simple as the battery. So that goes back to preparation. Now, yes, having batteries is, when you're in person or even in Zoom, that's a small thing, but he didn't think about it. Yes, Bobby.
So I subscribe to a newsletter for professional speakers, and there's been a lot of tips posted about, Zoom sessions when you're presenting for Zoom. And one of the things they say or recommend is that if you are the presenter, you should be logged on to your event more than once. So for example, log on to your PC plus your iPhone plus your iPad or whatever. And that way, if your power goes out or something, you're still connected and you're still part of the session, and you can at least explain to your audience what the problem is. And you may only have the audio, but the audio is most important. It's more important on Zoom than the video. So make sure you always have audio connection on a Zoom, especially when you're the presenter.
That's smart.
Yes.
That's a great tip.
Yes.
I'll take it even a step further. One of the reasons I appreciate my Macs, and I'm sure other brands can do the same thing, is the fact that they sync. So if I add Zoom information to the meeting invite on my Mac, all that Zoom information will also be on my phone or on my iPad. So again, it's an immediate backup. If power fails, you have to go to a non-powered device. So that would be something that is operating off the satellites, like your phone or your iPad. And if you have those things with the information already on the invite that's on your calendar, it's very quick to be able to get to it then and be able to recover from it. So I'm always amazed at people that, for a session like this, that they don't put this kind of stuff on their calendars. They just think, oh, I'll remember, and then they'll log in. And but not me. I have to have it where I know I can find it quickly.
Good point, Trish. And I want to remind people too that on Zoom, if you're connected more than once, you want to make sure that your audio is connected only once, so that you don't get that bounce back between your devices.
That's the most dreaded thing, the reverberate, right? The loop, and everyone just goes, it drives people crazy for a second.
And it's annoying. It really is.
Well, yeah, right.
Great points.
And Connie,
Yes.
we used to, when we had the district TLI Sergeant at Arms, the Sergeant at Arms did carry an extra projector light bulb.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe it wasn't in the budget that
they're not
year.
Universal. So it always only fit one of the many data projectors that we were using.
Okay. Okay. Maybe it wasn't in the budget that year. I don't know, but there wasn't a replacement, or I just remember, like, during the headlights, I'm like, oh my gosh, what do I do now? The second slide, which was just the name of the session.
Carry on.
Yeah, you carry on, and again, practice, because we should not be tied to our PowerPoint. We shouldn't be tied to our props. Murphy's Law. You've already thought about this beforehand. What if this happens? What this happens? That will help you entertain that. How many of you have ever thought, what will I do if I am booed prior to this presentation? Now, well, you know what to do? Absolutely, right? And I want everybody to unmute themselves, because we're going to end the session with the 3 Ps again. So unmute, please.
Practice.
Okay, we're almost
Preparation.
there. Preparation's the first P.
Practice.
Practice.
Perseverance.
Perseverance. Okay. Finally, have I done my job tonight? Have you learned at least one thing that you can help you that will help you moving forward?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Thanks. So I appreciate your time. And I'll turn it over to our president, who will share a little bit more about our club Showtime.
Thank you, Connie.
Hello, I did not know I was going to do that. Talk about being prepared. Hello, everyone. As Connie mentioned, and we've mentioned throughout the evening, we are what is considered an advanced club because we have we have different levels of Toastmasters. We have some that are just starting out, some like Bobby and Connie and Trish and myself, and who else do we have? Jared and Jimmy. We've all been in Toastmasters for quite a few years, and we've all gone through all these experiences at least once, if not several times. We would love to have you come and sit in at one of our regular meetings. We have meetings okay, I'm gonna get my dates wrong, so I'll be corrected. The second and fourth Monday of each month. You can log into our website, ShowtimePowerHour.aztoastmasters.org. And there's a site, a link there that you can log into either to the second Monday session or the fourth Monday session. What's quite unique about our club, which I have not seen another Toastmasters club do, and I belong to many, is that we do a double evaluation process. We'll have speakers. We usually have 3 speakers at each meeting. We'll have 2 evaluators for each speaker. The first speaker will give an evaluation based upon the pathways objectives. And the second speaker, second evaluator, will delve in a little bit deeper. For example, if the speech was a potential speech for a contest or could possibly be a contest speech, they will go into more of the contests or things like staying within the screen of your video, your presentation, your mannerisms, how you come across on the video, certain things like that. So really